This perspective has changed so many things, or changed over time as we've gone on, and I think it's going to continue to change because it's a very important topic. Okay, it's not that important, but it's interesting considering what happened in the recent chapter. And what happened in the recent chapter? Well, a lot happened, but the thing we're discussing specifically is, well, as One Piece fans and anime fans in general, we love to show our support for our favorite series as much as we can, and since we can't jump into the anime world ourselves, figures, merchandise, swords, and even cosplays, that fills in the gap. However, with things getting more and more expensive, who wouldn't want a better deal? And with today's sponsor, Buyee, we can get that done. Buyee is a great online shopping platform and the perfect destination for all your anime shopping needs. They offer a wide selection of products from beauty to electronics and clothes to home appliances. You can find whatever you need for your daily life. Plus, you can get the latest products from Japan and the US at the best prices. Buyee buys the products from Japanese stores and then ships them to Buyee's warehouse. And from there, it is prepared for international shipping and sent to you. So if you're looking for unique items from Japan, Buyee is the perfect place to go. You can find everything from anime figures to kimonos and even vintage items. Plus, they have a great selection of rare and hard to find items in stock. And since we all love One Piece, all it takes is a simple search and boom, endless options. Plus, Buyee makes it easy to shop, compare prices, and even read reviews from other customers. They even have a Discord server so you can chat with like-minded fans. So you can always make an informed decision. So guys, why wait? Head over to Buyee, sign up using the link in the description below, and you'll get 2,000 yen off your first purchase with Buyee. Specifically is, well, the Gorosei. Saint J. Garcia Saturn showed up, or he's on the way to Egghead. This is leading to many theories, right? People are speculating that the other Gorosei, their names are going to be comprised of planets as well, which I agree with that, right? Oda is somewhat changing the perspective of the story within the story in real time. It is actually asinine. But what people are leaning to even more so is talking about, okay, with J. Garcia Saturn headed towards Egghead, have we underestimated the Gorosei and their possible strengths and what they have to offer in One Piece? Oda has specifically talked about it before, saying that the Gorosei has yet to show their best stuff or their best assets or what makes them the most valuable. What does that mean? They've shown their smarts, I guess. They've shown how dumb they are as well, but something they have not shown is their strength. When we first saw the Gorosei, when they were introduced, of course, that famous chapter where it's the only cover page is black, everyone is referencing it, and so when they first showed up, it was hard not to picture them in a different light, considering one, back then, they looked the exact same. So everyone's speculating they had the eternal surgery, right? The ageless surgery, so they don't get older. They don't look any different. Sengoku had 1 year or two where he was not Fleet Admiral, boom, he aged a decade. They look the exact same, but that's not the only thing. So back in the day, I compared the Gorosei to a board, right? Where they oversee the company and they answer to the CEO. That's exactly what they ended up being, where they answer to Imu-sama. But the CEO has power, but the board also does collectively as well. Now, this is a different topic because we're talking about physical strength, like what they bring to the table. How strong are the Gorosei? Or rather, how strong should they be? Now, this is a very intricate question considering where you view them and what you view them as. Let's say we view them as just executives. They are people who carry out the dirty deeds of Imu-sama. Then they have no real need to be strong because their power comes from being smart, being intellectual, being resourceful. So they don't have a need to be strong. But what if they are the protectors of Imu, right? What if they are the people who stand to protect the king? Did Oda lie to us initially all the way back in pre-time skip when he told us the admirals were the strongest fighting force the Navy has? Well, technically, the Gorosei are part of the world government. So one could say Oda parsed his words there, or maybe he did say the strongest that the world government has. Either way, the Gorosei, they're a very interesting case study because we always try to rationalize it, right? Saying, okay, does it make sense for these 5 elder stars, planets, whatever, to be stronger than the admirals? Again, perspective. The admirals, their strength varies. And we're not going to get into specifics as to how strong they exactly are, but just know that they are among the top tier of fighters, and they are said to protect the world government, protect the Marines. They are the strongest fighting force. They're the people who they call when big things are needed. But let's say the Gorosei could possibly be stronger. Let's say the Gorosei, of course, they outrank them and they don't respect them. Something I saw on Twitter today was, shout out to my guy Sandman, always delivering great translations, in which he addressed how the Gorosei spoke to Shanks as opposed to how they spoke to Akainu. And based on the honorifics and how they addressed each, the Gorosei by proxy does have more respect for Shanks than they do to a Kainu. And I was like, well, okay, welcome to the rest of the community, right? That's just how the community works. A lot more people in the community have more respect for Shanks than they do for a Kainu, because from people's perspective, he got mollywopped by an old white beard in Marineford. There's so much more to that, but we're gonna leave it alone. The Gorosei, just off first glance, they're obviously old men, right? Old men who look like they're living off their board funds and they get reimbursed for every vacation they take, right? All their wives stay at home and they have maids that take care of all of their living duties. They don't have to lift a finger, but they have to come into work every day and discuss monkeys. I mean, Monkey D. Luffy, right? Monkey D. Dragon, Monkey D. Garp, just monkeys all the time. And so with that, that's not the only thing we see about them. They also look like they've been through some stuff. The Gorosei don't just look like meager, like old men. They look like old warriors. Now, we all look at Gandhi Gorosei, right? We don't know his name yet. It could be Mercury, it could be Mars, whatever. But he has a supreme grade blade. We are speculating. You don't just walk around with a supreme grade blade if you don't know how to use it. And let's not even get to Sanji's dad. Yes, that's what I call him, because I made a theory probably 7 years ago at this point, in which I speculated he would be Sanji's dad. I'll link it below. You guys give me your feedback. Where I talked about Sanji's dad and the blonde Gorosei. He looks like a monster. He looks like a hockey beast. Like he fights with his hands in his pocket and just straight kicks. That's what he looks like. Gandhi Gorosei looks like Zoro's possible true final opponent. That may be his final opponent, because a lot of people don't respect Shiryu, right? People look at Shiryu and say, where is he? I don't see him and I don't want to see him. He looks mid. He's not even the first division commander. Why is Zoro fighting him? Zoro's already stronger. Bro, a lot of people already think that Zoro is stronger already than Blackbeard's second strongest commander or second strongest fighter, not including Aokiji, because we know how that goes down. Either way, moving on from Gandhi, let's go to Mustache Guy. The bald mustache with the marks, he's a representation of another great figure in the world. He doesn't look like a slouch either. And the tall one looking like Gonfall, but also looking like an N-shaped Dumbledore, he looks like he could be formidable as well. It looks like he fights with finesse, like he has something under there. And then for Jay Garcia Saturn, I assume he would have a form like Master Roshi, bro. There's no question. That guy, what are those, dreads, right? They're curly locks. He looked like he could have been blonde back in the day. But the beard is magnificent as well, and he has a large scar. Now, you do not get that from fighting fodder, boys. You get that from being in monstrous battles. That is not something you accumulate by accident. And so when you look at these characters, one could assume that these guys have been through the ringer. Listen, the blonde Gorosei has a scar on his chest like if he's Whitebeard or something, okay? And again, we can speculate based on how they approached the situation, but Shanks walked in there. Some of them didn't even turn around. That is a Yonko of the seas. Yes, we can always look at the story and see that they don't view Shanks the way they view other Yonko, because they say, well, Shanks, he has his own plan. We can trust him somewhat without saying it, because they were more worried about filling the position left by Crocodile after he lost to Luffy, Smoker based on what they said, than Shanks meeting up with Whitebeard. So they look at Shanks as like, okay, he's our enemy, quote unquote, but he's really an ally based on how passive he can be sometimes in the world. But when he's active, it only benefits us, which goes back to Shanks' possible lineage, where people feel like he could be a Celestial Dragon, the One Piece Film Red, or the 4 billion volume release when Film Red came out. It alludes to Shanks being a Celestial Dragon, but people were comparing him or saying he's a Celestial Dragon because he's quote unquote Uda's dad, but Uda is a Celestial Dragon more than likely, and they thought Shanks and her were actually related. That's a deeper theory. However, these guys, I do think they're strong. Now, how strong are they? How strong should they be? Again, perspective. Do we think these are going to be the final opponents for the Straw Hats? Do we think Sanji fights Blonde Gorosei? Zoro fights Gandhi? Jinbei fights Gorbachev? I think that's what his name was in the real world. And what about Usopp or someone else, Yamato fighting Gonfall? And for Jay Garcia, maybe that's a Frankie fight. This all depends on where you see the story going, because from my perspective, I do think they could be, a couple of them could be obstacles for the Straw Hats, and I'm starting to believe that they could be the final obstacle because they give off that type of energy. But to the question, how strong are they? Well, what makes sense here? They should be around admirals. Not all of them, but at least 3 should be around the admirals. The others should be around first commanders or the in-between. What's the in-between? The Sabos, the Yamatos, Ben Beckmans. Those are the guys that could beat admirals, but more often than not, they would probably lose to an admiral. Again, don't get too deep into power scaling. That's just a general idea of who these people are. Here's my assumption. Blonde, Gandhi, and Mustache Man, they will be around the admirals, if not superior. That is my hot take. The other 2, slightly below. That's what I think. Here's the interesting thing, right? Let's say these guys are the final opponents for the Straw Hats. Not even the Straw Hats, or for some of the Supernova, some of the allies that will fight with Luffy at the end. Something that's very clear and very apparent every single arc is that Luffy's opponent is miles ahead of everyone else's. Every single time. There's never a time in the story where someone else's opponent has been stronger than or even close to what Luffy's been fighting. We can go through the arcs and look at it. When we talk about the Straw Hats, right? When the Straw Hats, their matchups versus Luffy, Luffy's opponent has always been a lot stronger. Not talking about Big Mom and Kaido because they're relative, but there are two people fighting Big Mom, one fighting Kaido. So if we assume these are Straw Hat matchups, then that falls in line with Imu being an absolute unit and being one of the stronger characters in the series because, guys, a lot of people presume we're going after the world government after Luffy fights Blackbeard. Now, there's some disagreements in regards to the structure of the story, and some people do feel like we go after the world government, then we go after Blackbeard and find the One Piece, and the final thing that we do is finding the One Piece, which for me would make a lot of sense considering the One Piece should be the trigger for the war, or the war is already here, technically, right? It's already on that path, but the One Piece is what will have it spill over, in my opinion, right? So in this case, assuming that the final war is the final thing in One Piece, right? The final major arc, final major conflict. Then at that point, the Gorosei will have to be strong because the world government, they would need people. The Seraphim, yes, I understand the Seraphim, but think about the people, the massive army that Luffy will have with him by the time the final war comes around. The Seraphim will provide a lot of support and they will help a lot. But once Yamato pulls up, the Grand Fleet pulls up, some of the different countries that support Luffy, the Straw Hats obviously, it's going to be so overwhelming, we're going to need more people to help. And that's with the Straw Hats growing after Egghead, growing after Elbaf, growing after the fight versus Blackbeard. We're going to need more strong opponents. I wouldn't be surprised if Kong comes down and becomes a character at some point. But guys, give me your thoughts. How strong do you think the Gorosei are? And who do you think is the strongest Gorosei? I mean, I'm gonna go towards Gandhi at this point because I don't think Luffy fights any of them. And then the blonde Gorosei is the second strongest because that's Sanji's opponent, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think they're legit, guys. I'm starting to think that. But give me your thoughts, like the video, and subscribe for sure. My video I made 7 years ago will be linked right here.